Good morning and welcome to another edition of United Way for Southeastern Michigan's What's the Word Wednesdays. My name is Courtney Howe, and today we are going to talk about the child tax credit. The last 10 minutes of today's conversation are reserved for questions, so please leave your questions in the Q&A box if you're watching on Zoom or in the comment box on Facebook. Now, I would like to introduce Megan Tibus, United Way's Director of Economic Mobility Initiatives, to say a few words. Megan, welcome.
Thank you, Courtney, and welcome everyone. We're so glad to have you here today. As you know, many households have struggled to meet their needs during COVID-19. For households and children, finding affordable quality childcare and just making ends meet with groceries, rent, all of the other things, utilities, it's challenging to make ends meet. And the extra cost of raising children can be a barrier for families who are struggling during this time. So recognizing that families and children need an extra boost to ensure that they can participate in our country's economic recovery, Congress recently included changes to the child tax credit in the American Recovery Plan. One change is that families will begin receiving the credit in July this year, so they don't have to wait until tax time when they file their taxes in 2022. So this is a major change in federal tax policy with really important and positive implications for families with children in our community. And so today we want to share with you some information about what this child tax credit is, how it works, who qualifies, and most importantly, how you can make sure that you get your credit and how you can assist the clients that many of you serve with getting their credit. So today I'm joined by Matt Hetherwick to talk about this tax credit. You may recognize Matt. He is a seasoned veteran of our town halls, sharing information in previous town halls during the past 2 tax seasons. He's the director of individual tax programs with the County Aid Society. He's a mission-driven finance and accounting leader with over 12 years of experience in finance, business, and operations. He has a bachelor's degree from finance in Michigan from Michigan State University, and he has a master's in finance and business administration from U of M Dearborn. Matt, welcome back to What's the Word Wednesdays, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Megan. I appreciate being here, and I appreciate being able to talk about such an important topic to our community today. As Megan highlighted, Congress approved and the president signed into law some pretty significant changes to the child tax credit and other credits that impact our community. The most important thing we want to talk about today, though, is the child tax credit. So we have a small agenda that we want to cover. First of all, we're going to talk about what's new with the child tax credit. It's been around for a long time, but there's significant changes. The next thing is who's eligible for that tax credit. How do you make sure you get the payments? As Megan mentioned, there's now an advanced portion of the payments. And then what are the next steps and what are the resources to be able to access not only the advanced payments, but the full amount of the tax credit over the course of the next 12 months. So let's start off with what's changed. First of all, there's a larger dollar amount. Currently in this tax year, the child tax credit's worth $2,000. Next year, for 2021 tax year, depending on the age of the dependent, if the dependent's under the age of 6, they're worth $3,600 for the tax credit. If they're between ages 6 and 17, they're up to $3,000 per dependent. It's also available to more families. And I say that because historically there's been a minimum income floor requirement. So those who were on fixed income, those who did not have $2,500 of income, were not eligible for this credit. The other part of it is that this credit was what we called a non-refundable credit, which means it was used to reduce tax liability. But after that, the credit was exhausted. Now it's fully refundable, which means if you have any of the credit available after reducing the tax liability, it's refundable back to you. So families who don't have an income, so they're on a fixed income and they do not have tax liability, the entire amount of the child tax credit is payable. The other thing is that half of that payment is now available this year. Instead of having to wait until we file taxes next year, you're eligible to get 50% of that child tax credit paid in what we call advance payments. And how that works is if you've already filed a tax return, starting on July 15th, the IRS will start distributing these payments. They will distribute 6 equal payments starting on like I said, July 15th. If it's $1,800, so the entire credit would be $3,600, you'd be getting a check or a deposit for $300 a month. If you've not filed your taxes, They're going to allocate the amount of the 50% of the credit over the number of months remaining of this year. So don't worry if you haven't filed yet, there's still ways to access this advanced credit. Next slide, please. So let's get to the important thing. Who's eligible? The answer is most families with children are eligible now. If you're a parent, a guardian, or a caregiver, and you have a dependent child up to the age of 17, which is another change to this. In the past, it was up to 16. So they've also advanced the age on it. You don't have to be a biological parent. So grandparents, aunts, uncles, foster parents, relationships like that, those are okay. As long as the child's lived with you for at least 6 months, you take care of them financially, there's an eligibility there. The other thing to be aware of is joint custody arrangements. Only one parent's eligible for this credit. It's a little bit departure from the advanced EIP payments that we received over the course of the last year and a half. So if you are sharing the dependent on the tax return every other year, you may want to take a look at it and see who's going to be eligible for it last year. For instance, if you were a parent who claimed your child this year in the 2020 tax return, but you know that next year your spouse or the other parent will claim the dependent for next year, they're the one who's going to be eligible for the credit. If you receive the payments and you're not eligible for the credit, you may be responsible for repaying that. So we just want to make sure people understand that. The other thing is all children of the dependents have to have a social security number, but the parents that are filing it or the guardian or caregiver, they can have ITINs. They do not have to have the social security number. So that can be difficult to understand, but essentially, if you're filing a tax return and the dependent has a social security number, you may be eligible here. I'm going to reiterate this again because it's very important. This is available to families with low or untaxed incomes as well. It's not only for wage earning families. The benefit can be reduced or eliminated if incomes get too high. We have a chart here on the screen that talks about it. If you're single and you receive more than $7,500 or $75,000 of income, your benefit may be reduced. Same thing if you're head of household or married filing jointly. Next screen, please. So how do you ensure that you receive your payments? That's what everybody wants to know. So you have to have filed the tax return in 2019 or 2020. If you filed the IRS non-filer tool last year to receive the stimulus payments, that is considered filing some form of a tax return, which will make you eligible for the advanced payments and the child tax credits. To get the full amount, because I mentioned that there's an advance payment, you have to file a tax return next year to file for the 2021 taxes. When you do that, you'll be able to access the second 50% of the child tax credit. Next slide, please. So if you've already filed your taxes, the good thing is that this is already in process for you. So starting July 15th, they're going to start distributing these payments. But what's important to do is that the IRS is going to release a portal. It's not available yet. It's supposed to be available here in the next couple of weeks, but you'll be able to go in there. You want to take your most recently filed tax return. So if you filed a 2020, take a look at it. If you filed a 2019 most recently, look at that one. You want to make sure that the address on that return is correct or accurate and still where you're living today. You also want to check the bank account information if you have direct deposit information on there. And then also check and make sure that all of your dependents are on there. If any of that information has changed, you'll be able to go onto this portal that the IRS is creating and update those things. And we know that those things happen, especially with dependent children. There are always babies being born. So if you have a child that was born during this calendar year, they would not have been on your tax return that you filed for 2020. So you'll want to jump into that portal and update that information so that you can start accessing that advance payment now instead of having to wait until next year. And the other thing is that you can opt out of the monthly payments as well. The IRS will be putting another portal out there that'll allow that to happen. And is what you can use that for is if you prefer to wait and receive the entire amount next year, you can do it that way. Or as I mentioned on a couple slides ago, if you're in a situation with shared custody, you may want to go in there and opt out so that you don't pick up a tax liability that you don't want to have to repay. Next slide, please. The next important thing is what if you haven't filed your income taxes yet at all? Well, there's a couple ways to do it. Both of them are at no cost to you. They're free. First of all, you can go to United Way's My Free Taxes and use their free guided online software. There's a helpline that you can access. The other thing you can do is if you're in Wayne, Oakland, or Macomb County, those families who've made up to $57,000 or less, they can schedule an appointment for free or no cost tax preparation services by IRS certified tax preparation preparers. That's here at Accounting Aid Society or at Wayne Metro. There's another thing out there you're going to hear about, and it's called the IRS's non-filer tool. At this point in time, we're encouraging as many people as possible to file an actual tax return. We do that because there are tax credits at the state of Michigan level that you may want to be able to access. We don't want anybody to leave any money on the table. So if you haven't filed a tax return, we encourage you to either prepare your returns using the United Way's My Free Taxes or schedule an appointment with Accounting Aid or Wayne Metro. And most importantly, I'm going to pass this over to Megan, who's currently on mute, to let her talk a little bit more about some other resources.
Thank you so much, Matt. We really appreciate all that information. We'll have time for questions in just a moment. Before we jump into the questions, I just do want to let everyone know about a new resource called getthethaxfacts.org. This resource is offered on behalf of a collaborative effort from United Way, Accounting Aid Society, Wayne Metro, the City of Detroit, and an increasingly growing coalition of partners that are united in helping families in the Detroit area claim every single dollar of benefits that are available to them through the tax code, the child tax credit, the EITC, all of those benefits that are available through the tax code. So getthethaxfacts.org is your hub for all of the information and resources you need. If you haven't filed your taxes yet and you need help filing, the links to get an appointment are there. The links to file on your own through United Way's My Free Taxes are available on getthethaxfacts.org. If you've already filed and you need to update your information with the IRS, as Matt said, that system is not yet available from the IRS, but as soon as it is, we'll put that link available on Get the Tax Facts, so you can find that information without having to hunt for it. Similarly, if you want to opt out of those monthly payments, again, that is not yet available from the IRS, but as soon as it is, we'll update that information on Get the Tax Facts. And if you have other questions around the child tax credit or other benefits available to you through the tax system, we've got Q&As and frequently asked questions and a lot of information already on getthethaxfacts.org, and we will continue to update that as we learn more information. So it's a really great new resource that's available. And with that, I will turn it back over to Courtney to moderate our Q&A period.
Megan and Matt, thank you both so much for the information. We have a lot of questions that's coming up, so we're really excited to get going. And again, for those of you who are watching, if you have any additional questions, please use the chat box or comment on the Facebook page and we'll make sure to answer. Our first question, again, we have a lot coming in. What if a child was 17 when the parent filed their taxes but turned 18 shortly thereafter? Will they still be eligible?
A great question. The age is based off of 12/31/2021. So as I mentioned, the tax credit has two splits if it's under the age of 6. So the child dependent has to be 5 or younger as of 12/31/2021 to be eligible for the $3,600. They need to be 17 or younger to be eligible for the $3,000 as of 12/31/2021.
Matt, thank you so much for answering that. It's much appreciated. Next question. Do you have to provide the guardianship paper when looking to get this credit?
Most tax preparers will ask you to bring a copy of it, so that way they have access to add the dependent in. At the end of the day, the IRS will review it, and if they have any questions, they may send you a letter and ask you to provide that proof to them.
That's extremely helpful. Thank you so much, Matt. Next question. What if I file an amendment? Will I still be eligible to get this credit?
Yes, because you've already filed an initial tax return. I'm assuming that the amendment was filed for either 2019 or 2020 tax return. So as long as initial return went into there, filing an amendment wouldn't affect this.
Awesome. Another question from the chat. Are you able to update your bank account information? For example, you are no longer banking with one bank and need to record the new bank you are banking with. Are you able to do that?
Yes, they're going to add the portal. Now, I received information last night around 7:30 that the IRS said that that portal will not be available till later in the year. I don't know what later in the year means, other than I don't anticipate it being available at the beginning of July, but they are building that into the portal, so that will be available.
Thank you so much, Matt. Another question we have in the chat. Will the opt-out option on the IRS website be available before they start distributing the payments? Or what are opt-out?
That was also
any?
Yeah, so that was in that communication I received also last night. They're saying that's going to be available the first week of July. So the payments aren't going out until July 15th. So that opt-out should, because we're at the mercy of somebody else preparing this, but they're anticipating having that open in the next couple of weeks. So it should be in place.
Awesome. Still quite a few questions coming in. This is a wonderful topic. Thank you all for your assistance. If I filed my taxes already, do I have to do anything? Will the payments automatically be processed?
Yes. The only thing that I recommend is just to verify your information is accurate. So if you've moved, if your bank account information has changed, or if your family status has changes and you've added a dependent or possibly dependents moved, make sure that that is all accurate.
What can a community member do if the check from the IRS is sent to the wrong location?
That's tricky. Hopefully people are able to get in there and get the information updated in the system. Other than putting a tracer on it, they'd have to reach out to the IRS and get it that way. Our hope is that most people opt to get direct deposit to avoid that from happening.
Thank you for that. Next question. Will any of my advanced child tax credit payments be reduced if I owe taxes from previous years or if I owe back child support?
That's a fantastic question as well. The advance payments are not able to be reduced for this. So any advance payments received this year, the full amount will be paid. Next year, when the 50% of the tax credit is being claimed, that may be reduced because of those items.
Okay, and just for clarification, another part two of the question. So my advanced CTC payments cannot be impacted by any garnishments, or can they?
That's what the IRS has said, that they will not be garnished. The advanced portion won't be.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. Next question. Will the IRS contact me in any way before they begin distributing the first payment? How can I avoid any scams?
Yes. Thank you for asking that question as well. You will be receiving a couple of things. I'm turning around because the IRS has sent out some paperwork. I have my copy here. They've sent out a letter. It's called the letter 6416, notifying eligible taxpayers that they're eligible for the advanced child tax credit. They are then, in the next couple of weeks, going to send out another similar letter. It's going to be called letter 6417, and it's going to let you know how much your advanced payments are supposed to be. That way, you can then go into the system and make changes if you recognize the information is incorrect. They will also send you another letter in January of 2022 that will let you know how much you received in the advanced child tax credit payments. Please keep that copy for your records. When you go to have your income taxes prepared to get the second half of the credit, your tax preparer will be asking for a copy of that letter. So it's very important that you keep all of these letters. The other thing is you always know when it's coming from the IRS, because you will see the logo on it. If I can get this to show up here. I don't know if I can see it very well, but the IRS's logo always shows up if you guys can see that. So it's important to know that. Okay. And the outside of the envelope says important information pertaining to the child tax credit.
Perfect. So it's labeled. Wonderful. That's extremely helpful. We have another question in the chat that's asking, is a child tax credit nationwide or just in specific states or areas in the country?
Yeah, that it's a national thing. So Congress passed this. It's tax code across the country in all of our states.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Will receiving the advanced CTC payments cause a delay in my refund when I file my taxes next year?
I'm going to go with the answer of maybe. I don't have an exact answer on that. The only reason why is from experience this year. We know that they're going to reconcile the advanced payments from what's on the tax return with their records. And we learned this year with the economic impact payments that they took time to reconcile those, which has delayed the process of sending refunds. So there is, I will say, a chance that that may occur. Not promises, not guarantee. I think that's why it's important that everybody save the letter that they receive from the IRS, all three of them, and have them handy when they go to their tax preparer. So that way they have the most accurate information that's being put in the tax return, because that will match the IRS records.
That's extremely helpful. Thank you so much. And again, talking about the forms that you received, the question that's in the chat, can you remind us what's the name of the form? Again, so the 6417, or can you confirm what that?
Yeah, so the first letter that you've either received already or you're receiving in the next week or so is letter 6416. The name of the letter is posted on the bottom right-hand side. The next one you're going to receive the next couple weeks is letter 6417. And that's going to talk about how much you're going to receive in payments.
Okay, perfect.
They did not indicate what the letter is. Yeah, they haven't indicated, I don't think they've indicated what the letter is going to be in January. I'm going to look real quick.
Okay, so that's
go ahead and keep asking questions. I'll get that answer.
No, that's great. So another question was how I know how much I receive, and that's going to be indicated in the 6417 letter, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that. Another question in the chat, will we receive interest if we wait?
No.
No interest, okay. All righty. Another question that we do have, we talked about your refund. Will the child tax credit payments impact any other benefits that they may be receiving?
If we're talking about maybe SNAP payments or something like that, no, yes. These will not. This was enacted by Congress within mind of who they were trying to assist. So they made sure that the way they had the law written, that it was not going to affect other assistance programs.
Matt, thank you so much for that. A couple more questions. How can I calculate how much of the cash benefit that I receive? I know that we talked about that letter 6417, but are people able to calculate themselves? Is there a website that they can kind of figure out how much they'll be receiving?
The IRS does have a website. I don't think it's calculating it exactly right now. It's not completely tricky. Is what you can do is, if you've already filed your tax return, is look at the age of your dependents. So if they're going to be under the age of 6 at the end of this calendar year, you know that their payments will be worth $1,800. The advance payments are. And then if they're between the age of 6 and 17, the payments are worth $1,500. So if you know the number of dependents you have and the age they are, you can calculate it that way.
Awesome. Well, Matt and Megan, thank you all so much. And before we conclude, we have one more question that just popped in the chat, and then I will allow you all to make any closing remarks before we move on. Our last question of the session: if a child is born in calendar year 2021, will payments not start until you file in winter of 2022? And will parents receive retroactive pay from when the child was born?
If you use the portal, which they're going to add later this year, you can add that newly added family dependent. So if a child was born since January 1st of 2021, that portal will allow you to go in there, add that dependent, and you can start receiving those advance payments now. So they'll be worth obviously $3,600 total. Those advance payments are $1,800. So as soon as you get your information updated into your portal, you'll start receiving those payments, $300 a month if you can do it before July 15th, or allocated over the number of months remaining when you do it.
Okie doke. So I think we have about a couple more minutes for questions. I see they're still popping up really rapidly. So this is a great topic. We appreciate it. Is this child tax credit, I know we mentioned it is nationwide for the US. Is it available for Canada or any other neighboring countries, or is it just US specific?
Different countries have their own tax codes. So this is just designed by the U.S. tax code. I can't speak to Canada or Mexico or any other countries' benefits.
Thank you for that. If one parent has been filing a child for the last couple of years, then they get a monthly, but next year the other parent files for the child. Can you kind of talk about the switching of people who are filing for children?
Yep. So that's really important to talk about. The first thing is if you could have a conversation with the other parent to talk about who's going to be claiming the dependent or dependents for next year, having that conversation and sorting through it. If you can't get to a resolution and you know there's a chance that the other parent is going to file, then you should opt out of receiving the advance payments, because there is a responsibility to repay any of these payments that you are not eligible to receive. So we don't want anybody to get caught receiving the payments and having to then recuperate them. So what would happen is when you file your income tax return next year, you're going to report that you received these payments. If you don't have those dependents on your return, they're going to ask you to repay them. And I will say this, that if you don't report it when you file your income tax return, the IRS is verifying all this information. They will then send you a letter afterwards and ask you to repay it anyways. So they've kind of dialed in on being able to track these resources with all the changes that's going on. So we want to make sure that people just understand, if you know you're not going to be able to claim them, if your divorce decree, the court has ruled that in odd years, the other spouse is able to claim, or the former spouse is able to claim the dependents, opt out. Don't receive the payments and risk having to pay them back, because you will get charged an interest for having to pay those back.
Matt and Megan, thank you both so much. This is the conclusion of our town hall today, but we really appreciate it. Again, to learn more about the child tax credit and how to access everything, please look in the chat box for the links for additional resources. As a reminder, for those of you who may be experiencing a need, our 211 helpline remains available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We maintain a running list of available services in the community, and you can connect to the supports that you need. You can also look up resources in your area by using our 211 resource database at unitedwaysem.org/211. Again, that's unitedwaysem.org/211. Please join us next week for a conversation on the Tulsa Massacre anniversary, 100-year anniversary, with special guest speaker Phil Lewis, a senior front page editor at Huffington Post. To see our previous town halls and more upcoming topics, please visit unitedwaysem.org/virtual town halls. The website is also included in the chat box. Everyone, thank you all so much. We hope to see you again next Wednesday, and stay safe. Thank you.